The Spaniard of the 21st century is Lamine Yamal, Neymar's biggest screw up in life, right, man? And this kid got that stamp at 19 years old, man. Just the team victory wasn't enough for him. He wanted all the spotlight for himself. Man, Yamal is much more than just a player.
Lucio and Yamal has already said publicly that he sees Neymar as his idol. Does winning the World Cup make the fan already greater than his own idol?
This is a cool topic because, for a long time there was a debate, which is actually a false debate, and that debate used to bother me a lot, There was a trend, not that the Champions League isn't big, the Champions League is obviously huge. But a view started to emerge that the Champions League was just as relevant as the World Cup. That view was completely shattered. Just look at what Messi went through, man. Messi already had everything in life, but until he got that World Cup stamp, he didn't become Messi. I think people didn't really get it, Can we stop with this nonsense? The World Cup is the World Cup, man. There's nothing bigger in football than the World Cup. And, I think people will remember that. Lately, the arrival of the Champions League here in Brazil, with broadcasts that we didn't used to have, kind of started this trend, They started saying that, no, nowadays soccer doesn't depend so much on the World Cup anymore. But it really does, man. The World Cup is freaking awesome, man. A World Cup. And this kid got the stamp. He got that stamp now at 19 years old, man. That's huge, man. So, it doesn't mean that, the old phrase from Fernando Calazans, which is great, I'll mention Zico, for example. If Zico didn't win the World Cup, it's the World Cup's loss. We have great guys who didn't win the World Cup. Damn, I'm talking about Zizinho, I'm talking about Cruyff, I'm talking about Zico, These guys didn't become any less great just because they didn't win the World Cup. But the World Cup is huge. And this kid earned that seal of approval at 19 years old, man. Man, the pressure on him is over. Do you know what that means? Now he's going to spend the rest of his career cementing his legacy and winning. So he becomes huge.
Right.
So the question was,
if the fan made their own mistake, they did.
They did. They did because, man, that doesn't diminish whatever people might eventually think of Neymar off or on the field. It doesn't take away from the fact that he was a spectacular player. But we'll get to that talk about what he could have been, right? So, he was a spectacular player, but man, Yamal is already following in his footsteps. He's already won more than he ever did, including something bigger than anything he won at 19 years old. So, and he's winning everything the guy won, so he surpassed him.
What did a Spanish kid trained at La Masia see in a Brazilian to have him as his main role model like that?
I think that's what it is, right, man? First, the Barcelona connection, right? Yeah, the kid was raised there at La Masia, so yeah, his idols would tend to be from there. When he was a kid, Neymar was the one shining. And Neymar, obviously, he has that captivating thing for a kid like Yamal, especially since his style of play is about dribbling, about irreverence. Neymar is all of that. I think it's natural, that irreverence, that devotion to Neymar, with Neymar as his idol.
Like that. And Yamal became the protagonist in Barcelona, which decided to rebuild the team around him. Neymar, when he was at his peak, decided to leave Barcelona. How much does this decision change the story of both of them?
This point is fundamental in Neymar's story, right? The biggest mistake of Neymar's life, right, man? I doubt he doesn't think about it. There's a turning point in his life, in his career, which is this story, right, man? He decided to leave Barcelona. This decision, I think we've even talked about this here before. Right after that, his comeback with Barcelona, when they managed to turn the game around and so on. And then the next day, he opens the newspaper and the covers are all about Messi. Yeah, everything is Messi. All the news is about Messi. And then he wanted to be the main character. And this thing about him, he's somewhat individualistic, right? Just the collective victory wasn't enough for him. He wanted the spotlight just for himself. And on the day he shines, the spotlight is on Messi. That was unbearable. And then everything comes into play too. So much commercialism, family, all that stuff. There's a huge offer from PSG, and then he goes and gives up the best moment of his career, his best moment in football. One detail, Messi, who doesn't talk much, etc., said that, right? He said that at the time. And I already told him that he's going to be the best. This crown will go straight to him. It's true, we didn't know Messi would last so long, right? But at that moment, he said it. He was going to make it. So, like, this decision, he goes to PSG while it's still being built. PSG that took a long time to establish itself and needed to get rid of the stars to finally settle. I mean, this decision, I think it marks Neymar's big downfall. He never really gets back to that level of excellence. He reaches a Champions League final with PSG and so on. But he has little control over his own life, right?
What does Yamal need to do to avoid repeating some of the paths in Neymar's career?
I think it's good for us to get to know who Yamal is, man. I think in that sense, it's really cool for us to say, man, Yamal is much more than just a player. Yamal, like Vinny Jr., is a symbol in Spanish society. A society that lives in conflict, a society that has a very big problem with racism. We're talking about a country that was under Muslim occupation from the 8th to the 15th century, And when Spain takes it back, the Muslims are expelled. Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, they say the following phrase, "Pure blood will be expelled from Spain." So in a way, this drives the formation of Spain. It's this racist idea. So the fight of a guy like Yamal today is to show who the 21st century Spaniard is. The Spaniard of the 21st century is Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal. To the dismay, to the despair of some racists, the Spaniard of the 21st century, even though some still want otherwise. This has grown a lot. Racial hatred in Spain has increased. I can't remember exactly, but I think reported cases of racial hatred in Spain have increased by about 30% recently. And this guy is there challenging. This guy, he's the son, parents from Guinea and Morocco. He's Muslim. He's very proud of that. In the World Cup, he goes, scores a goal and makes the Muslim gesture. He makes a point of it because he's very much a protagonist in this struggle. About the big question in Spain today, which is who the 21st century Spaniard is. And dramatically for some, the Spaniard of the 21st century is Lamine Yamal. The face of the Spaniard of the 21st century is not that white guy, it's Lamine Yamal, man. The guy is mixed, etc. And we're talking in a context, it's also good not to forget that we have the president of La Liga, the Spanish league, who is a guy with origins in far-right parties. He was a guy who, in the 70s, was part of La Fuerza Nueva, the fascist party of Spain. So that's what this guy is fighting against when this 19-year-old kid symbolizes all of that. He's really important, man, and like I said here, and I'll repeat, he represents what's at stake in Spain today, which is what it means to be Spanish in the 21st century, and being Spanish is Lamine Yamal, to the disappointment of some.
And Yamal achieved before the age of 20 the collective recognition that Neymar pursued practically his entire career. Does that say more about the strength of the teams Yamal played or about the choices Neymar made throughout his own career?
I think both, right? I think both because it has to do with strength, right? Yeah, it has to do with choices. Like we said here, he chose to leave Barcelona at its peak. He could have stayed there and won everything and had something comfortable, but he wanted to leave. But he doesn't choose national teams, right? Neymar doesn't choose. Yeah, he has to play for the Brazilian national team and Yamal has to play for the Spanish national team. So that's not up to him. But it has a lot to do with each person's choices.
When a star player doesn't reach where he seemed destined to go, is the responsibility usually his or the context around him off the field as well?
I think it depends on the case, right, man? Sometimes it can be due to external factors. We have some examples. And there are obvious cases where the responsibility is on the guy. Neymar, we've even talked about this here. We've even used that expression. In his case, he's got a lot of responsibility. He's got Peter Pan syndrome. He never managed to grow up, right, man? At several moments, he showed this. He had this lack of maturity and it hurt him. It really hurts him in those decision-making moments in his career decisions until it culminated in that unbelievable moment, which is painful, I think even today, for any Brazilian, right? You're losing a World Cup. You go there, score a penalty, then you go and mess with the goalkeeper, and you do that because that's deplorable towards your teammate too. Your teammate had missed a penalty, man. He goes to mess with the goalkeeper and says, "Not with me." What does he mean? Man, the other guy is crap. The guy who missed the penalty is Bruno Guimaraes. He's crap, but I'm awesome. You know? What kind of craziness is this? You know? So it has a lot to do with Neymar's decisions too.
Is it too early to compare Neymar and Yamal, or does it make sense now?
No, it makes sense. And Yamal has a lot ahead of him, but I think Yamal has already surpassed him. He's already surpassed him, and man, it's huge to win something at 19 and have the rest of your... It's kind of like Mbappe's story, right, man? It seems a bit like Mbappe. You win at 19, and then you have... Man, think of how much pressure that takes off. Messi only got rid of that pressure when he was old. I mean, you're already a world champion. I mean, now whatever comes is just a bonus in your life. Whatever comes is extra, but you're already on Mount Olympus. So you're huge, you know, and there's something we have to remember, we can't forget. He arrives at the World Cup in the worst conditions. He had suffered a very serious injury before, right? He gets there below full fitness and plays. Maybe he didn't perform well because of that, and he's being heavily criticized because of it. I don't think he should be, but he's already a world champion. What more does he need? Soccer is unpredictable, but there are 3 or 4 World Cups ahead. Now, my friend, enjoy it.
On Lucio de Castro's pickup soccer team, there are only pennies. And Yamal or Neymar? Zico. And Yamal or Neymar?
Oh, man, it's Yamal. No disrespect. There's nothing there. Neymar was way too decisive at his peak. Nowadays, there's no doubt. It's Yamal. But, I think today there's absolutely no doubt.
Overall, right?
Overall, Yamal still has a long way to go, right? Team-wise, he's already gotten where Neymar didn't. So now, without both of them at their peak, Neymar was really great. But Yamal has already reached...
Ask them to hit like...
Subscribe if you haven't yet. Give us that support, right? Juwon came back with this thing, with this crap. Man, people already know what to do. I'm too old to keep asking for likes and for people to subscribe to the channel.